comes out and is collected by the fimbriae, that is the, what do you say, part of the oviduct. Then what happens to the Graafian follicle is it becomes the corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone, estrogen, what else? Relaxin
Yes, and inhibin.
and
But
inhibin. Yeah, yeah.
do not NCERT and other books do not talk about relaxin, inhibin, and also not to much extent about the estrogen. The most important of all four is progesterone. Okay.
Yeah. So after, and this corpus luteum can also be called as yellow body because it has yellow color, something inside it, fluid, I think.
It has a yellow
Protein, luteum protein,
lutein protein. Lutein.
lutein protein.
Can you see the screen that I'm sharing, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after the corpus luteum degenerates more, it is called the corpus albicans.
So that is the degenerating and dying corpus. Corpus luteum itself is a degenerating structure. Okay. So that's why yesterday I told you that corpus luteum is a degenerating Graafian follicle and corpus albicans is a degenerating corpus luteum. And then finally it degenerates to such a level where it just is like diminishes. It's gone. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So degeneration means it is degrading and falling off. Yes. What else did we studied about the ovarian cycle?
Okay, yeah, the ovarian medulla. I don't know.
Cortex and medulla. Okay, Matthew, would you like to talk about cortex and medulla? What did we study about that? And also the Graafian follicular structure, if you're
Yeah,
there.
I can do the follicular structure.
Okay, so okay, Matthew is not able to use the mic right now. Okay, so continue, Fatima, with the follicle, Graafian
Okay,
follicle.
so the Graafian follicle has a follicular layer, and inside the Graafian follicle is a fluid-filled cavity called the antrum, and also the secondary oocyte, and also of the first polar body.
Yes, perfect. And I told you about the ovary, that ovary has two regions, distinct two different regions. One is the cortex and the other is the medulla.
Sir,
Yes.
this ovarian medulla and ovarian cortex, is it mentioned in the textbook?
Yes, they talk about that this oocyte, this ovarian cycle takes place in the ovarian cortex. So the word ovarian cortex is there, but they have not explained what is cortex and what is the other thing which is not cortex. So that's why I told you both. And it has been asked in NEET once that what is the function of ovarian medulla? If not, uh, if it is not, and the option will be development of follicles, which is a wrong option, and the right answer will be supply of vascular system to the ovary. So medulla is the region which does not participate in the ovarian follicular development or oocyte development. Okay, all the cycle, oocyte cycle, is happening in the ovarian cortex. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Yeah. For example, there is today we will do some questions on this topic, and I will tell you the previous year NEET questions, and I will also tell you which questions have come in NEET which are not in NCERT also. So the word and the concept both is not in NCERT, but it has been asked because it is related to what you have studied from NCERT. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then talking about the uterine cycle.
Yeah, so the uterine cycle is also called the menstrual cycle, which has three phases. The first phase, okay, firstly, it is uterine cycle is a series of changes in the endometrium of the uterus, which no, where which in which the uterus prepares for the what do you say, for the implantation of the zygote. But when the implantation doesn't happen, menstruation takes place, that which is the first phase of the menstrual cycle. Also we studied about Meenak and menopause before. Meenak is the first menstruation, and which happens at the age of 10, no, 10 to 11, I guess you said, right?
11 to 13 is the
10 to 13. Okay. And menopause happens around the age of 50. Then so in the menstruation happens in the first day to fifth day for 5 days, in which the endometrium is shed off along with mucus. Then there is the proliferative phase or the follicular phase, in which happens between the 6th day and the 13th day, in which the estrogen starts rising and the endometrium starts building again, and in which the endometrium is about 1 millimeter. Then what happens is the ovulation phase is there, in which the ovulation happens. That is the secondary oocyte is released. Then the third phase is the secretory phase, which is happening. Okay, the ovulation phase happens on the 14th day, that is mid cycle, and then the secretory phase happens in the from the 15th day to 20th day, in which the progesterone level rises because of the corpus luteum degenerating. The endometrium starts becoming thicker.
yes.
Um, yeah, and we also discussed about menstrual anemia, which happens because of deficiency of RBC and hemoglobin because of periodic loss of blood.
Yes, perfect. Okay, thank you so much, Fatima. Welcome, Kulsum and Arpit. You both joined a little late.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Arpit. Good evening, Kulsum. And I'm sorry, today you will not be able to see me, just hear me because my webcam is having some issues. Okay, I hope that's fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kulsum, am I audible to you? Okay, thank you. So let's begin from where we left in the last class. Okay, a lot of us are having mic issues today. I am having a webcam issue. Lots of technical issues happening. Okay, so let's start with uh, trying to understand both these cycles, ovarian as well as the uterine cycle, in a combined manner. Before that, let's write about the ovarian cycle first. So write down, because we have not written any notes about the cycle, right? I've just explained you this. For boards, you need notes also. So write down the ovarian cycle. I told you what it is, right? It is a series of events occurring in the ovary, right?
Yes.
Yes. So write down it. It is a series of events occurring in the ovaries, during which maturation of oocyte takes place. Maturation and release of oocyte takes place. Now it has 3 phases. Okay.
In which the maturation and
release of oocyte takes place. We are maturing the oocyte because finally we have to release it, right?
yes.
Yeah. So I will be dictating it. Write down. There are the three phases. Also explaining it with this diagram. So there are 3 phases. First is the follicular phase or pre-ovulatory phase. Let me. Can I use this space here? Can I delete the functions of medulla? Medulla. Everyone has written this. People. Everyone has written the functions of medulla. I just need this space here. Am I audible? Okay. So right on the first phase is called the follicular phase or pre-ovulatory phase. And as the name suggests, it is follicular, which means the follicle development is happening. So that's why it's called, we call this the follicular phase. So write down uh, the ovary. The ovary has an outer cortex. The ovary has an outer cortex and an inner medullary region. Outer cortex and inner medullary region. And follicular maturation takes place in the ovarian cortex. Follicular maturation takes place in the ovarian cortex. The granulosa cell layer, third point, helps in maturation of follicle and also the oocyte. Contained inside the follicle, and also the oocyte contained inside the follicle. Okay. Last point about this phase: as the follicles develop, as the follicle develops into the Graafian follicle, as the follicles develop into the Graafian follicle, the primary oocyte present inside, divides to form secondary oocyte. Is it clear? Till this phase is the follicular phase. Clear, everyone? Written, yes or no? Shall I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Now the second phase, which starts from here, is called ovulatory phase. Ovulatory phase. Write down about this phase. The Graafian follicle bursts. Releasing the secondary oocyte outside the ovary. The Graafian follicle bursts, releasing the secondary oocyte out of ovary. Okay. And when it is released out of ovary, it has a clear membrane around itself. Okay, and that membrane, you all know what is it known as, which finally you know it from the context of ovum. What is the outer membrane of ovum known as?
Pellucida.
Yes. So write down the released secondary oocyte is surrounded by a clear membrane. The released secondary oocyte is surrounded by a clear membrane known as zona pellucida. Okay, and write down only one ovarian follicle. Only one ovarian follicle produce a secondary oocyte per month. Only one ovarian follicle produce secondary oocyte per month in females. If the same thing is asked from the context of ovaries, then it will be alternate months. Okay.
Sir, can you repeat the last line? Only one ovarian follicle produces secondary oocyte per month?
Per month in females.
Okay.
Because in females there are two ovaries, so I'm just taking both the ovaries into consideration. So in a female, every month only one follicle is developed, but every month uh, it develops from an alternate ovary. Okay, in January from the left ovary, in February from the right ovary, then it is not developing in the left ovary. So if the question comes that a follicle develops in each ovary, then it will not be every month. If it is each ovary, then it is alternate month. But if it is in female, then it is every month. 1 month from the left, 1 month from the right. Is it clear? It is alternate. Yes. So this is ovulatory phase. Write down the third phase of the ovarian cycle is called luteal phase. Luteal phase. Luteal phase. It is also known as post-ovulatory phase. Obviously, right? Now write down. After the Graafian follicle releases the oocyte, secondary oocyte. After the Graafian follicle releases the secondary oocyte, the remnants of the follicle develops into the remnants. Remnants means REMNANTS. Remnants means whatever is left. So what all things are left in the follicle? The antrum, the polar body, and the follicular layers, right?
Yes, sir.
So these are the remnants of Graafian follicle develops into a corpus luteum. It is a glandular tissue. It is a glandular tissue. Glandular or endocrine tissue is similar thing, also known as glandular tissue, which secretes hormones. So it is a glandular tissue which secretes female hormones: progesterone, estrogen, relaxin, inhibin. It secretes female hormone. Is it clear? Everyone is clear with all the three phases of the ovarian cycle?
Teacher, sir, my teacher, she did ovulatory phase and menstrual cycle both in, as a same topic.
Ovulatory phase and menstrual cycle as the same topic.
Not exactly same, like she told all the points, but they're all jumbled or mixed up in
The note.
a topic called menstrual cycle.
Yeah, so menstrual cycle is a cycle which is uterine cycle. That is why I take both these two cycles separately, because one organ is ovary and the other organ is uterus. It is also written in NCERT like a like a mixed paragraph where they talk about ovary and uterus jumping from one to another in every line, but that creates confusion. Ovulatory phase, ovulation cannot happen in the uterus, right? It's
Yeah.
very, so it is very obvious that there are two organs working and or playing a role simultaneously in females. So we first have to understand what is happening in ovary and when it is happening. So from day 1 to day 28, when things are happening in ovary, things are also happening in uterus simultaneously. Menstrual cycle is a specific term given to uterine cycle only, because menses only come out of the uterus. What comes out of the ovary is the oocyte. So ovulation is in the ovary. So NCRT says ovulation and menstrual cycle together because they are talking simultaneously about the ovary as well as the uterus. But the hormones which are working are different, the events that are happening are different, and the phases are also different, but they both are happening simultaneously. So in the end, everything will be clear to you when I'll come up with a graph. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so you understand? Do you have any conceptual doubt that what is there anything contradictory that
No,
you?
no, sir.
Okay, okay. Yes, Matthew, I'll repeat the names for you. The female hormones are progesterone, estrogen, relaxin, and inhibin. Written here. Can you see written here in red? Progesterone, estrogen, relaxin, and inhibin. Yes. Most important one is progesterone. I will tell you why it is very important. So everything is clear to you, Fatima, right? You are on the same page with me.
Yes, sir.
Now let's go to the uterine cycle. This is happening. This is what.
Sir, in the uterine cycle, when about the hormones, it's confusing when they go high and when they go low.
That we will do with the graph. Everything will be clear by the end of this class. Do not worry, okay? And if it is not clear, I'll not end the class. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So coming to uterine cycle, which is the menstrual cycle happening in the uterus, and it has three phases, which I have already told you about, but start writing certain things about the phases. So basically what is happening here is the uterus is preparing. Uterus is somewhere else away from the ovary, like just adjacent to the ovary, but the root is through fallopian tube. So ovum comes out of the ovary, goes into the fallopian tube, gets fertilized at the ampulla isthmus junction, and then after fertilization keeps moving towards the uterus for implantation. In that whole time, when this is happening with the ovary, the uterus is not sitting idle. The uterus already knows, because of hormones that are being secreted from pituitary, that there are hormones which are going and acting on ovary. So ovary must have started the cycle. So let me also start the cycle. So uterus starts preparing itself for a potential pregnancy to hold, if there is one. Okay. Now in uterus, simultaneously what's happening? There are three layers in the uterus: perimetrium, myometrium, endometrium. The endometrial layer, which is the innermost layer, is the most dynamic layer. It is not permanent, so it keeps thickening and breaking down. You understand? So
Yes, sir.
that thickening and breaking down of that endometrium is called menstrual cycle. So the cycle gets spotted in females on day 1 when the follicle starts developing. Remember, in the beginning, when the primary follicle is developing into secondary follicle and tertiary, and the primary oocyte is developing into secondary oocyte. In that time, the first phase of uterine cycle starts, which is the menstrual phase. So whatever was already present in the uterus, okay, starts flowing down, like starts breaking down and getting out. That is called the menstrual phase or the bleeding phase. So write down, during the menstrual phase, day 1 to 5, during the menstrual phase, which is day 1 to 5, the level of the level of female sex hormones is very low. the levels of female sex hormones. Now, which hormones are we talking about? Which hormones affect the uterus? Progesterone
Progesterone.
and estrogen. Okay, so these levels,
Uh, why is this progesterone low?
yes, this progesterone is low because the source which produces progesterone, which is corpus luteum, from the both progesterone and estrogen are secreted from ovary, but they go and act on uterus. Just like testosterone is secreted from testes, but it goes and acts on other parts of the male body, the vocal cords, the muscles, the fat distribution, you know, and facial hairs, etc. You understand?
Yes, sir. And what about estrogen? Estrogen is produced by the follicle.
Yes. Estrogen is produced by the follicle once the follicle starts developing. So in the first 5 days where the bleeding is happening, the primary follicle is barely developing into secondary or tertiary, because if day 1 starts with primary follicle, then on day 14 ovulation happens, right?
Yes, sir.
For the first 5 days, there is almost very low level of estrogen also, because the follicle itself is not developed to produce enough estrogen. And for progesterone, that has to be low because corpus luteum is yet not into the picture. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So from day 6 onwards, why does menstruation stops, like the menstrual flow stops, is because estrogen starts coming into the picture. So from day 6 onwards, when primary follicle is slightly developed and now it starts producing estrogen, and other cells also starts producing estrogen, and then secondary follicle becomes tertiary follicle, more estrogen comes in. So before ovulation, estrogen levels comes up because of the follicles. Is it clear?
So how does the estrogen affect the stopping of menstruation?
Because it starts building the endometrium again.
That progesterone does, right?
Progesterone comes in the secretory phase after ovulation, day 15 to 28.
But progesterone is required for the stability of the endometrium.
Stability means maintenance of the endometrium, whatever thickness it is. Yes, progesterone is also important for increasing the thickness, but for building the layer from the scratch, you need estrogen first.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So write down, in the menstrual phase, which is the bleeding phase from day 1 to 5, there are low levels of female sex hormones, both progesterone and estrogen. Okay. Next point. This causes the endometrium to disintegrate. This causes the endometrium to disintegrate, and the associated blood vessels to rupture. Associated blood vessels of the endometrium only, not of the whole uterus. This causes the endometrium to disintegrate and the associated blood vessels to rupture. And all of this passes out of the vagina, and all of this passes out of the vagina as menses. As menses. Menses word is used for this tissue, the blood vessels, everything that is coming out of the vaginal canal during menstruation. Is it clear? So the
Yes.
first phase, or the menstrual phase, it expels out all the menses. Okay, because both the levels of progesterone and estrogen are low, and if both these levels are low, so progesterone levels are low, which means the endometrium is not stable, it has to disintegrate. Estrogen levels are low, which means it cannot form if it wants to. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
everything comes down. Then from day 6 onwards, when the bleeding phase stops and everything is out, so there is a limit, right? It bleeds for 5 days. So on day 2 and 3, the bleeding is the heaviest, and after day 3, it starts becoming less and less, and by the time day 5 or 6 in some females comes, the blood stopping is gone. Sorry, the blood spotting is not there. You cannot spot blood, because from that day onwards, the second phase of the uterus starts, which is called proliferative phase. As the term suggests, proliferation. What does proliferation means? The wildlife is proliferating. My flowers, my kitchen garden is proliferating. What does it mean?
Dying.
Proliferation is not dying. It is just the opposite of dying. It is like expanding. Life is proliferating means there is greenery everywhere. If your kitchen garden is proliferating, it means it is whatever you have grown is growing very good. So this is called making up phase. This was breaking down, this was making up. So proliferative is making up phase, where the levels of estrogen starts increasing, because the levels of estrogen starts increasing because they are being produced by the developing follicles in the ovary. Is it clear to you, Fatima? I'm just making it very, very clear. I'm not
Yes, sir.
anything for a doubt. The clarity which you could not find in NCRT or in your teacher's notes, I think this will help you to understand.
Yes, sir. Sir, you said something, the last part, because levels of estrogen starts increasing because they are being produced by the follicle.
Yes, they are being, the level of estrogen increases because it is being produced by the developing follicle in the ovaries. Primary, secondary, and Graafian, right? Developing follicles in the ovary. Next point, high levels of estrogen causes the endometrium to thicken. Do you understand, Fatima, which hormone is important for making the endometrium?
Yes, sir.
It's estrogen. So the increased levels of estrogen causes the endometrium to thicken and develop blood vessels and glands in it.
Can you repeat this point again?
Yes. Sorry, someone has to repeat the initial phase then. Sorry, I'm so bad at it. I know. When
High
I'm
levels of estrogen causes the endometrium to thicken and develop blood
yes,
vessels and glands in them.
yes, to thicken and develop blood vessels and glands in them.
And what causes? I didn't hear.
Sorry.
Sir, what did she just say in the starting? I
Okay.
didn't hear.
High levels.
You just tell first. High level, yes. High levels of estrogen. Arpit, is my voice clear to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. High levels of estrogen causes the endometrium to thicken. And become and develop blood vessels and glands in it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can write down, this is a question that has been asked in NEET. Make a star and write down this sentence. Estrogen is the dominant ovarian hormone during the pre-ovulatory phase. Estrogen is the dominant ovarian hormone during the pre-ovulatory phase. Both menstrual phase and proliferative phase was pre-ovulatory phase, right? So the only hormone which is dominant before ovulation is estrogen. Progesterone starts dominating after ovulation. Is it clear? Can we come to the third phase now?
Sir, can you repeat this point?
Yeah, the point was estrogen is the dominant ovarian hormone during the pre-ovulatory phase. This is exactly the sentence that was asked in question. So I'm just telling you the
No,
sentence.
like the explanation of the point.
The explanation was explanation was, it's not explanation. I'm just telling you that in the uterine cycle, both the menstrual phase and the proliferative phase comes under pre-ovulatory phase because it's happening before day 14.
Okay, okay, I got it.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Now let's come to the third phase, which is called secretory phase. Write down. In secretory phase, day 15 to day 28, increased production of progesterone happens. Increased production of progesterone happens from the corpus luteum in the ovary. Is it clear?
Happens?
Increased production of progesterone happens from the corpus luteum in the ovary. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So inside the ovary, corpus luteum is forming already, right? So if I would not have told you about the ovarian cycle separately, and when I'm going through these dictations, you will be confused that we are studying about uterus, but we are talking about ovary. Yes or no? And that I think that
Yes, sir.
is what probably your confusion is with your notes, right, Fatima? Because NCERT talks like this only. So it says that the uterine wall is thickening because estrogen is being produced from the ovary. So now you will think that estrogen is being produced from the ovary and uterine wall is thickening, which means ovary is doing something separately of its own, right? So
Yeah.
that it was doing ovarian cycle. So NCERT just clubs both of these together under menstrual cycle as a heading, which I found students also find confusing. So I split it into two and explain it likewise. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So write down from the corpus luteum in the ovary. Progesterone causes, next point, progesterone causes the endometrium of the uterus. Progesterone causes the endometrium of the uterus to double or triple its thickness. This is where you think, Fatima, that progesterone is important for endometrium, right? You are correct. You're not wrong, but it's important for building it, like thickening it. But the base foundational makeup or proliferation is done by estrogen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's like once you have made the foundation of a building and the ground floor, then that was estrogen. And then progesterone comes and just keep raising the floors. Do you understand the analogy?
Yes, sir.
So the progesterone causes the endometrium to double or triple in thickness. So already it was around 1 mm, right? In
Yeah.
the phase. So it becomes 2 to 3 mm in the secretory phase.
So does it make a difference if it is like thin, the endometrium?
Yes, of course. Because for a better implantation, thickening is very important because the developing zygote, which develops into embryo, when it comes and implants into the uterus, it has to embed in the wall. So if you want embedding means it is not just stuck on the surface of the endometrium. It goes inside it. It penetrates. Embedation means in Hindi it's called दीवार में चुनवा देना. You understood?
What? Diwar mein?
चुनवा देते हैं ना, like you put something and you make it a part of the wall. Embedded. It's half inside the wall. It is not stuck on the wall.
Okay, okay, I get that. Yeah.
Understood? So you cannot just, for example, a mirror can be just stuck on the wall, or it is a part of the wall only. It is embedded. So you cannot just take it off whenever you want.
Yeah.
Break the wall to take it off. That's called chunwana in Hindi. Okay.
Sir, also, what if the endometrium is too thick? What happens then?
Yeah, that's a problem. If it is too thick, then the dynamicity of the endometrium is lost. So if it is too thick, which it can happen under the effect of certain drugs, or in case of pregnancy. So when for 9 months, when progesterone is constantly present, so after the 9 months, when the baby is delivered, the amount of blood and tissue that comes out of the female uterus is humongous, and it takes a lot of time for the body to clean all that because it's too thick. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Normally in 1 month of time it cannot become too thick for the body to handle if there is no disorder, because normally whatever amount of thickness it will gain after 28 days, if there is no progesterone to keep it maintained, then it will start breaking down. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But it does become thick in cases where menstrual cycles become arrhythmic. So probably I should tell you this. So in many females, there are many reasons for menstrual cycle to go arrhythmic. Might like they become irregular. So they do not follow the 28 days. Sometimes females, because of stress is a very common reason in today's life, where females either skip the menstrual cycle, or the menstrual cycle which is of 20, which should be of 28 days, becomes of 30, 35, in some cases even 40, 45 days. In that case, the endometrium becomes very thick, and when the bleeding, then after that when the menstrual flow starts, then that also is very very heavy for those females. You understand?
Yes, sir.
And the pain is also a lot, because the ovary needs greater contractions to get everything, to get rid of everything out. So irregular cycles should not be there. So females should maintain a healthy lifestyle, a balanced lifestyle, both mentally and physically, so that their periodic cycles also remain regular.
Uh,
Yes, Arpit.
Sir, this can also happen like due to intake of unusual drugs also. Like, is it possible?
Yes, it can also happen because of substance abuse. It can also happen because of stress. It can also happen because of certain bodybuilding, or uh, you know uh, heavy exercises, or like all those kind of things, which females, if they start doing all of a sudden, then it affects their menstrual cycle. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so write down. Now let's come to, you all will draw it with me, but first let me draw this. Just deleting this one thing. So now I will try to plot a graph for both ovarian and menstrual cycle together to understand what is happening. And there'll be four things that we will make in that graph. Um, first, yes. Sorry. Okay. So we will study four things in the same figure. One will be the ovarian cycle hormones. Second thing will be what happens in ovary, oocyte and follicle development, right?
Yes, sir.
We will here write about the stage of oocyte. And the third thing we will do is uterine cycle hormone. the last thing would be stage, sorry, state of endometrium. Okay, so let's start. Let me first mark everything. So on the x-axis, on the y-axis is the concentration of the hormones, and on the x-axis is the days. So here it starts day 1. Here also it is day 1. At the end it is day 28. Okay. Okay. Everyone, in the middle here is day 14. And then this will be day 7. This will be day 21. Okay, the markings are clear.
Yes.
Everything is happening simultaneously. So let's make a graph. So let me use red. So the red color is for, let's study the ovarian cycle first. So in ovarian cycle, there are 2 hormones. Which are the 2 hormones? LH and FSH, right? So let red denote LH. And what is the stage of oocyte? So from the level of LH stays very low, okay? Throughout the, like the ovarian cycle, it stays low. And it only rises at and reaches the peak at day 14, because it helps in ovulation, and then it again becomes low and stays low. Simple. You understand? LH only rises and reaches the peak at day 14. Clear? Say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Now let me use green.
Yes, sir.
Was it a delayed response, or let me use green for FSH? What will happen for FSH? What does FSH helps in? The level of FSH also stays low, okay, and only comes up but stays lower than LH at day 14, then again goes low and stays low. So for ovarian cycle, it's pretty clear. Both LH and FSH reaches the peak. Don't draw it right now. I'll give you time to draw. For just everyone's pen down and eyes on the screen. It reaches the peak on day 14. Yes? Understood? Everyone? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear or not?
Clear.
Yes.
Sir.
Now, what is happening to the stage of oocyte here? What's happening to the oocyte? It starts with, so from day 1 onwards, it is the primary oocyte, right? In the primary follicle as well. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And it becomes secondary oocyte, and before day 14 it becomes
Graphian follicle.
Graphian follicle, which is ready to ovulate. So on day 14, what happens?
Ovulation.
Ovulation. And then after day 14, it develops into Corpus Luteum,
Luteum.
which sustains for some time, and towards the end, if nothing happens, then it degenerates into
Corpus albicans.
Corpus albicans. Do you understand the time frame in which it is working?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everyone? Clear? Anyone has doubt? Yes, Alia is saying yes. Okay. Now let's see what is happening with the uterus at the same time when these events and this hormonal surge is happening in ovary. So I will use now some other colors. Let me use purple. What are the uterine hormones which are secreted from the ovary but works on uterus? This purple is for
Estrogen and progesterone.
yes. So let's talk about estrogen first. The purple is for estrogen. So what happens about estrogen? What have you studied from the uterine cycle?
Estrogen helps to make the endometrium.
Estrogen helps to make the
Endometrium.
yes, perfect. So when will it be? So if this is day 7, now for uterine cycle we have to mark some more days, because if this is day 7, then this is 2.53. Let's say this is day 5. Okay, I'm marking day 5 here because day 5 is important for uterine cycle, because from 1 to 5, let's first write down the stages of endometrium. From day 1 to day 5, what is happening?
Menstruation.
Bleeding phase. Yes, the menstrual flow or the bleeding is happening, correct?
Yes, sir.
The state of endometrium is it is in a bleeding state. Then from day 6 to 13, remember, just before the
Follicular phase.
which one?
Follicular phase.
Fatima.
Follicular phase.
No follicle involved in uterus. Follicle is all there here. Follicle was this primary oocyte, secondary oocyte. This was the follicular phase, Graafian follicle. You understood?
Yes, sir.
This is the follicular phase. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then ovulation, and this is the luteal phase. Yes.
Yes.
So what's happening with the uterus after bleeding?
Proliferative phase.
Yes. Proliferative phase. And then day 14, nothing happens in the uterus because it's waiting for ovulation from the ovary. Then from
Day 14, nothing doesn't happen. No, ovulation happens.
from the uterus.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm saying nothing happens in the uterus significantly because uterus is waiting for this thing to happen. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is like there is a more important event happening. So if uterus also starts doing something significant in this phase, for that it needs signaling, and everything is being done in the female system for this one event, ovulation. Ovulation is the center focal point of all reproductive events in female. If ovulation does not happen, then whatever you are doing with the uterus or with the ovary does not make any sense. So on day 14, nothing happens in uterus, I'm saying. Is it clear? Then then the last phase, the secretory phase, starts from day 15 onwards. That is how I have also written, made you write the days. Please confirm the days that you have written. 15 to 28 is the secretory phase. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So you understood when follicular phase is going on in the ovary, at that time bleeding and proliferative phase is going on in the uterus. Yes.
Yeah.
Then occurs ovulation, and when luteal phase is going on in the ovary, at that time secretory phase is going in the uterus. Now let's talk about estrogen. The levels of estrogen are very low from day 1 to day 5, almost not there. That is why the bleeding is happening, right? You understand, everyone?
Yeah.
And then from day 6 onwards, the levels start rising. Okay, they start rising and reach the peak just before ovulation. Is it clear?
Yeah.
And then declines towards day 28, like this. So in this case, you see the peak for estrogen is not on day 14, but behind day 14, day 12 or 13, somewhere here. Okay, this is the peak for estrogen. Estrogen is the dominant pre-ovulatory hormone. Can you see, before ovulation, estrogen is highest. From this point onwards to this point, it is very much secreted, right? So you can see that throughout the proliferative phase, it is the estrogen which is dominating. Now let me use for progesterone. Which color should I use for progesterone? It's purple, so let's use orange. Now let's talk about progesterone. Progesterone is also very low in the first 5 days because it's the bleeding phase. If that was high, then bleeding would not have happened, right?
Yeah.
But will it start rising after the bleeding ends?
No.
No, it will still continue to be low because corpus luteum will come after day 14. So luteal phase has yet not come. So nothing is producing progesterone. So it stays low. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And just after ovulation, just after it crosses day 14, it
It will
starts.
start increasing.
Yes, it starts rising. And why is it rising now?
Because corpus luteum is there.
Yes, corpus luteum is secreting lots and lots of progesterone. So it reaches. And again, when corpus luteum, now look at above, when the moment corpus luteum starts becoming corpus albicans, the level of progesterone again falls down. Yes, because this is generating. Can you relate everything now?
Yes, sir.
So it reaches the peak here in the secretory phase or the post-ovulatory phase. So that's why progesterone is the major hormone, the most dominating hormone in the post-ovulatory phase. Which is the dominating hormone in the ovulatory phase? LH and FSH
LH.
in the ovary. Okay. Now there is one more scenario I would like to discuss. So this happens in a normal cycle. And when the levels of both progesterone and estrogen comes down at day 28, what happens? Again, day 1 comes, right, of the cycle and bleeding starts. You understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Everyone, clear? Matthew, Kulsum, Arpit, Alia.
Clear.
Very good. Now, look, see, if at this point when ovulation has occurred, right? So this after ovulation, the secondary oocyte starts moving towards the oviduct. Yes or no? So yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So by the time corpus luteum is there, the secondary oocyte has reached ampulla isthmus junction. Yes.
Yeah.
And if fertilization happens, then the corpus luteum will not degenerate. It will not become corpus albicans and it will stay there for some more time.
For how much time?
Before placenta is formed, basically. Before the embryo is successfully implanted and placenta is formed, corpus luteum is maintained.
After that, why progesterone is not required?
Progesterone is required throughout the pregnancy. Corpus luteum is not the only thing which secretes progesterone. After placenta is formed, placenta starts secreting progesterone. Because a degenerating corpus luteum cannot stay for 9 months, no?
Yeah.
It does not have enough source to stay alive for 9 months, but it can be prolonged. So it's like a story. So what happens is secondary oocyte went off from the ovary, started its journey into the oviduct, and then corpus luteum is sad. It is secreting some progesterone and it is thinking maybe I am helping the oocyte in some way, but ultimately I will die. But the moment secondary oocyte becomes ovum and gets fertilized with the sperm, it starts producing a chemical. After fertilization, ovum is not called ovum, it is called zygote, and the zygote starts dividing to form embryo. Yes.
Yes.
And the developing embryo starts forming one thing which is known as HCG.
Human chronic gonadotropin.
It's not chronic, it's chorionic. It's released from the chorion, the layer. Human chorionic gonadotropin. HCG is known as the pregnancy hormone. You know pregnancy test kits?
Yeah.
How do we test pregnancy through the pregnancy test kits? Anyone knows the procedure?
No.
One knows the procedure. Arpit, Fatima?
No, sir.
Okay. So there is a strip-like thing. Okay. And then female, whoever, if the female wants to test the pregnancy, Mehraj has just joined in. Mehraj, you there? Have you just joined in? or were you there in the class? Okay.
Sir, I have just joined in, sir, because I had a class, sir,
Okay.
7:30.
So you can see on the screen we are doing some fancy coloring graphs. Okay. These are the ovarian
Yes,
cycle
sir.
and uterine cycle together. Okay. I'll ask someone to
Okay, sir.
do a recap at the end, but just stay with us. Okay. So
Okay, sir.
and currently we're talking about pregnancy test kits. How to test pregnancy? So you have the strips, which looks like this. I'm drawing the strip here. So it's like a strip which has a cavity which has two. This is a testing window, and then on one side there is this cup like thing where the female has to deposit few drops of her urine. So urine is put here. Okay. You all must have seen glucose testing strips. Anyone has seen glucose testing strips?
No, sir, but
You take
the
that.
COVID testing slips are also similar.
Yes.
Yes, sir, they are same.
So COVID testing strips, we put the nasal swab sample.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when we put urine sample here, in this test window, if there is one line which is showing up like this, it is a chemical reaction to just say that the strip is functional. The strip is not faulty, it is functioning. So if there is only one line, the strip is functional and you are not pregnant. But if there are two lines, then the strip is functional and the female is pregnant, because the second line tests for the levels of HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. And HCG is a pregnancy hormone exclusively secreted only during pregnancy from the developing embryo. Is it clear? Is it clear? So if you get this hormone on the test strip, the female is pregnant. And this is for the control. Like this is just to test whether the strip is functional. If you get no strip, if you get no line on the strip, then it means the strip is faulty. It's outdated or expired. It's not working properly. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is how we can test pregnancy through the pregnancy test kits. And this hormone it starts secreting from the developing embryo, and this hormone sends a signal to corpus luteum. Write down. Okay, I'll make you write down everything, but just understand. So this hormone HCG sends a signal to corpus luteum in the ovary that do not degenerate. You are required. The mission is successful. I have been fertilized. I am becoming an embryo. So I need you to keep producing progesterone, because if you go down, progesterone levels will go down, and the endometrium, where finally I have to go and embed, will start falling off before I reach there. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the fertilized embryo makes arrangements for itself by telling the corpus luteum to not degenerate, stay there. I have been fertilized, and now it will take me few days to reach the uterus and get implanted there. Once I reach there, once I get implanted, I will develop placenta. So then you can rest in peace, but stay there till I reach there. You understand how this works?
Yeah.
So if pregnancy occurs, then the graph of progesterone will not go down and it will just sustain like this. You understand? For 9 months. If pregnancy occurs. Is the graph clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Is there any doubt with respect to any cycle happening now? Yes or no? Is there any doubt?
No, sir.
Please make these two graphs, label everything, write everything, then I will dictate you. This is the overall graph for the menstrual cycle. So if they ask you to explain menstrual cycle, whatever you are writing as bullet points or as paragraph, if you make this graph and label everything, 100% you are not going to lose any marks. Okay. just quickly get myself water. Please let me know when you are done. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'm back. Maraj, do you understand what's happening here?
Yes, sir.
Shall I just give you a quick recap while others are drawing?
Okay, sir.
So see, this is a combined graph for both the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle that we did in the last class. Okay. And LH and FSH are ovarian high hormones which act on the ovary, and estrogen and progesterone are uterine hormone. No, they are the hormones which act on uterus, but they are produced from the ovary. You understand? So first thing, which is the graph here, is telling you the levels of LH and FSH. Then what is the stage of oocyte at that level? Then third is the level of estrogen and progesterone in the uterus, and what is the stage of the endometrium of the uterus at that time. Okay. X-axis tells us about the days of the menstrual cycle from day 1 to 28 for both. Okay. Ovary and uterus. And y-axis is for the concentration of or the level of hormones. Okay, Maraj, this is clear how to read everything.
Yes, sir.
So the levels of LH and FSH only rise and reach peak on day 14 for ovulation, because these two hormones are important for ovulation. Okay. Before that is the follicular phase, where the primary, secondary, and the Graafian follicle, the tertiary follicle develops. And after the ovulation is the luteal phase of the ovary, where the corpus luteum and corpus albicans are there. Clear? This 1 and 2 is clear, Maraj?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay. Now 3 is what is happening in the uterus simultaneously. So from day 1 to 5, when there was the follicular phase going on in the ovary, from day 1 to 5, there was bleeding phase going on in the uterus. So the levels of both estrogen and progesterone were very, very low. That's why the bleeding was happening. Then from day 6 onwards, after bleeding phase, level of estrogen shown here in purple starts rising, and it reaches the peak somewhere around day 12, 13. Okay. Before the ovulation. Because before the ovulation, the proliferative phase of the uterus has to be completed. The uterus should remake everything it lost during the bleeding phase. Then on 14th day ovulation happens, so nothing significant is happening in the uterus. And after ovulation, estrogen starts coming down and progesterone starts increasing, what is shown here in orange. Okay. It is the most dominant hormone of the secretory phase or the post ovulatory phase. Is it clear, Miraj?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
And this dotted line here tells that if pregnancy occurs, then the level of progesterone stays, because first is it stays due to corpus luteum and later on due to placenta. So it stays constant and high for the rest 9 months.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Let me know people when you are done so that we can write some more things. Done, everyone? Fatima?
Yes, I am
No,
done.
sir. No, sir. No.
Okay, please do it. I hope you have no doubt, Fatima, because and you will do good in your exam, because this is major chunk that I think you were confused about.
Yeah, it's better now. Thank you.
It's clear?
Yeah. So also,
Yes.
I have this chapter, then reproductive health, and also the first genetics chapter.
In this exam only, which is on.
Yes.
When is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
When is it? 9th, right?
9th.
Okay. So what I can ask you is it possible for you to? I think do you have any doubt in reproductive health? That is a very short chapter which most.
Yeah, it's a small chapter. It's only theory. There's
Yeah.
nothing to have doubt in that.
Right. It is just about birth control devices, because I'm doing that chapter currently in a batch which I will take just after yours. So if you had any doubts, you are welcome to sit in that batch if you want. You can make that work out. But that will.
And are you doing the genetics
Yeah.
chapter for MD?
Genetics. I will start today, but just the basic fundamentals in one batch, because it's
Okay, can I join that batch because it will be helpful, because genetics is the chapter which is, having twisted questions. That's why.
but we will not be able to reach important stuffs today in that chapter. That's the point. It will just be the basic introduction of genetics, and we will start with certain concepts that we have studied, like genetic variation, recombination, and Mendelian genetics, things like that.
Okay.
That you have already done, I think. Anyways, you are welcome to join if you want. With the next batch.
Also, I have an exam tomorrow, so I have to study for that also.
Yeah, right. Okay. Then I leave genetics on your very able shoulders, Fatima.
Sir, genetics was like, it's fun and it's very, very happy if you can do the crosses. I can do the crosses, and when you get the result for the crosses F1 generation, you feel glorious.
Yes, you feel happy.
It
The moment
yeah.
the moment they ask you about any exception of a law, like incomplete dominance or
Yeah.
dominance, then making a cross becomes difficult.
Yeah, because then it becomes very confusing. So we had tests.
I can do is after the class ends, why don't can you stay for 10 more minutes?
Yeah, sure, no
Tell you
problem.
some important things that they always ask in school exams that I can do. Some cheat sheets, some handouts I can give you
Okay, thank you so much.
for genetics.
What was I saying? Yeah. So in the exam, we had a class test. Okay, and there was this question about Mendel's, in which we had to write about recombinants and linkage and.
Can you and me take that after this class?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
Let me finish this for everyone, and then we can continue for 10-15 more minutes. That I can do for you. Okay. Everyone done? Shall I move forward? People, Aya, Arpit, Kulsum, Matthew, and Maraj. Is it noted? Yes, Matthew is done. Kulsum and Alia is also done. Arpit, I hope you can speak. I would like to hear your voice.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. See, I like Arpit's voice. Okay, so write down. Now there are two cases from where, so I'll talk about two probable cases that can happen. One is very obvious. Write down, if pregnancy does not occur, if there is no fertilization. Write down case one, if there is no fertilization. At the end of the cycle, if there is no fertilization. That is case A. if no fertilization. So if there is no fertilization, then what will happen? The corpus luteum, write down first point. In the absence of fertilization, corpus luteum degenerates into corpus albicans. Corpus luteum degenerates into corpus albicans. Next point, the levels of estrogen and progesterone falls down, and the cycle goes back to the menstrual or bleeding phase. And the cycle goes back to the bleeding phase. The menstrual cycle goes back to the bleeding phase, day 1 to 5. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And the uterus starts preparing, and both the uterus and ovary starts another reproductive cycle. And both uterus and ovary starts another reproductive cycle. So another ovarian cycle begins in the other ovary, and another uterine cycle begins in the same uterus, because you have no spare uterus. You means females have no spare uterus. So uterus has to keep working day and night every month. Ovaries can take rest. First case is clear?
Sir, when the ovaries take rest, do they do anything else?
Yes, they are they are maintaining themselves, supplying themselves, becoming ready for the next, because there is lots and lots of wear and tear happening in the ovary now. During the time of follicle, I told you that the Graafian follicle bursts and it gets embedded with the ovarian wall. The ovarian wall bursts and the oocytes comes out. Then it needs to repair everything and again choose one oocyte for the next cycle, right? So it does all of that, gathers some breath in that 1 month, and it tells the left one to work in its place. Okay? So that's called division of labor between organs. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Teamwork.
Second case, sorry, what?
Teamwork.
Sorry, come again.
Teamwork.
Yes, teamwork, pair work here, both ovaries. Yeah. But then no one asked me, males also have a pair of testes. Do testes also do teamwork? Is spermatogenesis happening on 1 month from one testis and the other month from other testis?
Oh,
Yes or no?
no.
No. Testes, both the testes constantly keep working day and night, producing sperms. And because there we do not need limitations. Okay, I'll also teach you today, after I finish this, the concepts of twins. Twins, I've seen questions being on identical and non-identical twins, though it is not given in NCERT in this chapter, but the concept of twins is there in genetics. But because twins are formed reproductively, so is it okay if I explain it here?
Sir, yes, now.
Yes, no.
Please explain it now.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the commandment, Arpit. I'll do it just after the second case. Write down if fertilization occurs. The second case is if fertilization occurs. So if fertilization is occurring, on which day it can occur? Like range. Which day it cannot occur?
Before 14 days, it cannot happen. After 14 days, it can happen.
Yes. So it is happening in post-ovulatory phase or in the secretory phase. With respect to ovary, post-ovulatory phase, luteal phase, and with respect to the uterus, secretory phase. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Write down if fertilization occurs, the corpus luteum is maintained. The corpus luteum is maintained by HCG hormone, by HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, by HCG hormone. which is secreted by the developing embryo, which is secreted by the layers, not the layers, just write down the developing embryo.
Sir, what is the spelling of
Chorionic.
yeah.
Human chorionic gonadotropin. Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So this sends signal to the corpus luteum, and the corpus luteum is maintained. And write down the corpus luteum and later on the placenta. The corpus luteum and later on the placenta secretes progesterone and estrogens, secrete progesterone and estrogens to support the pregnancy, comma, breast development, and lactation for the rest 9 months, or throughout the gestation period also you can write. The term pregnancy or is biologically known as gestation period. Okay, I'm writing it here. Gestation period. So throughout the gestation period, placenta, corpus luteum and placenta combined together, they maintain the pregnancy throughout, and they keep secreting progesterone and estrogen to maintain the pregnancy.
So
Yes.
the gestation period and pregnancy are same.
Yes, pregnancy is a common word which we use, like the female is pregnant, she is undergoing pregnancy. Gestation period is a more biological term telling that it is the period in which the embryo is embedded inside the uterus of the female and developing. Okay, it's the same. Like,
Okay, sir.
now let's quickly, so everything is clear for the cycles. Female reproductive cycle ends here. And let's quickly come to what did I say? Twins. Yes. So
Twins.
talking about twins, let me use another color. It is something which is related to reproductive system and genetics both. So NCERT talks about it in genetics, because I will also come back to it in genetics. There we will study the genetical point. Now let's study the reproductive point here. Now twins are of two types. You know, one is called identical twins, right?
And fraternal twins.
Identical twins, like just the common name first, and non-identical twins, right? Non-identical twins is also known as fraternal twins biologically, which fraternal twins. And in the concept of one of this, which is fraternal twins, the ovarian cycle is important. That's why I took this topic here. Now, identical twins are those twins whose genotype and phenotype is same at birth. Genotype means the genetic constitution is also same, and they look same also. Okay, and in this case, the sex also has to be same. It cannot be different. So can you think of one way how identical twins are being formed? What is happening?
Sir, I know the way.
You know the way? Can you tell me? Yes. Can you share it with all of us?
Okay, so the embryo itself gets divided into two.
So start with ovulation. Like that is where we begin things. How many ovulation events are there? in identical twin. You know, only one ovum is secreted. You are right. So what Fatima said is right. So let me just explain it. Only one ovum is secreted. Everything happens normally. One ovum is secreted, gets fertilized, and at the time of embedding, just before it's embedding into the like implanting into the uterus, when a zygote from one cell becomes two cells, okay, this stage, one cell to two cell, right? You understand? Everyone is with me? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes,
So
sir.
when the zygote divides from 1 to 2 and becomes embryo, these two cells should stick together normally, and then they become 4, again stick together. They should be there till a bulk of cells is formed, which is called morula. 16 to 32 cell stage is called morula, and that morula, I will tell you about this later on in development of pregnancy in next class, don't worry. But the morula then starts making a pattern among itself, and it starts showing layers, making layers, and then gets embedded into the uterus. But very early on, if at this stage, so if it in later embryo, if you damage the embryo does not survive, it dies. It dies and miscarriage happens of the pregnancy. But very early, if like from 1 to 2 cell stage, if there are two cells formed and somehow these two cells do not stick together, so one cell excuse me, excuse me, it's very irritating, the few seconds gap where you know you will sneeze but you are not sneezing.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, like you know you will sneeze any moment now, but it's not coming out. Okay, so these two cells somehow, if they detach from each other, then they both will not be they will not die, and now they will start dividing from 1 to 2 and then to 4, and two different embryos will be formed. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And these two different embryos will go and implant at two different locations, two different places in the same uterus.
Sir, does that mean 2 placentas also?
Yes, it means two placentas also. It means two umbilical cords. It means two navels. It's not shared, no. Both the babies who come out have a navel, and both umbilical cords needs to be cut. So this is exactly like two embryos developing and two fetus developing with two placenta and two umbilical cord, and that's why it is a greater burden on the female, right?
Yeah.
And you will see that whenever there are twins in the beginning, the twins do like the pregnancy is more difficult for the female, and the stretch of the uterus is more to accommodate both the twins. So but eventually they are coming from the same zygote, no?
Yes, sir.
They are coming from the same zygote. The maternal genome and the paternal genome, both mother and father genome, will be same in both.
Yeah.
The genotype will be same, the sex will be same, everything, every organ, every characteristic, hair color, eye color, everything will be same. So these are called identical twins. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It is a disorder during the division, the first earliest divisions happening in the zygote. Now non-identical twins are more interesting from reproductive point of view, because we were discussing about teamwork, right, Fatima?
Yeah.
So if left ovary is releasing, if left ovary has committed to the cause of ovarian cycle in January, right ovary should not commit to that cause. But somehow, due to some mis-signaling or misregulation, both the ovaries simultaneously release ovum. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
can it be possible that one ovary is secreting 2 ovum at the same time? Like only one ovary?
So you are saying that the right ovary only is choosing two follicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of more of hormones.
Yeah, see, it is possible, but see,
Because then how is like this is twins, then how is twins possible?
yes. So for that, I was just thinking that should I give you a short answer and move ahead? There is something called hyperovulation. There is a concept called hyperovulation. Okay.
Is
Most of
that a disorder?
Yes, most of the non-identical twins are produced through hyperovulation. So what you are saying exactly, it's that the ovary, instead of choosing one follicle and developing it, it chose two follicles and started developing both of them simultaneously. And when the day of release came on 14th day, instead of one secondary oocyte, it released two secondary oocytes. That's called hyper. Hyper means more, ovulation means than required. So ovulation is ovulation. So hyperovulation can happen. It is not very, very common, but it happens. So it's, yes, biologically it's possible for one ovary to release two ovums. It is also possible for both the ovaries to not follow the teamwork plan, and because of some regulation or missignaling, both underwent a cycle. So each ovary is producing only one ovum, but both the ovaries secreted at the same time. So the sperms that entered fertilized and ended up fertilizing both the ovums. In that case, every ovum will have a different genotype, right?
Yeah.
In case of identical twins, nothing is same. So they both could be boys, they both could be girls. One can be boy, one can be girl, and they don't look same. They have different genotype and different phenotype, and can have different sex as well. So this is due to reproductive disorder. Yes.
Sir, in this case, MTP is allowed?
MTP.
Yeah.
MTP is not allowed legally till the point where either the baby is damaged, either genetically or physically, or there is a chance of mother's health, like mother can not survive that pregnancy.
But sir, what if the couple doesn't want two children?
Two babies, no, that's not allowed.
And but then this happened, they didn't, think of this happening, so it should be allowed.
It's a bonus. If you'll go to court and say that we just want to terminate pregnancy because we were expecting one child and we got two, like by court of law, I think they will say that, okay, you got a bonus, just keep it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Because see, there is no reason to medically terminate, no? Then if you can allow this, then someone can go and say that I wanted twins, I only got one egg fertilized. Can I please terminate this? You understand, Fatima, the problem?
No, can you repeat this part?
If you are saying that a couple can argue that I wanted one child, I got two, I do not wanted two child, we did not plan for two kids, so let us do the MTP. And suppose court says yes, okay, you can do it. Then another couple can just go and say that, I wanted twins and I just got one fertilization happening, I'm waiting for the time when I'll get two fertilizations at the same time, so can I terminate my
Okay.
Everyone does not know biology and has read biology and is a biologist, bro.
Yeah.
So till the time pregnancy is normal, everything is fine. It's illegal to abort it. Okay.
Okay.
So is this concept clear, everyone? Identical and non-identical twins, and non-identical twins are actually it happens because of disorders of ovulation, either hyperovulation from one ovary or simultaneous ovulation from both the ovaries. Clear? Yes, Arpit, you have a question?
Sir, can you explain like what exactly happens in Down syndrome?
Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a trisomy. I'll just quickly, so it is more important in genetics chapter. In genetics, we will come to some chromosomal abnormalities where Down syndrome, Klinefelter, Tau syndrome, all this will be discussed. But I told you that human cells are diploid, right?
Yes, sir.
I also told you that animals are not good with handling polyploidy. Beyond diploidy, if you go triploid or tetraploid, animal cells do not handle that well, right? It's like a disorder in that cells. But plant cells do handle polyploidy better. They are tetraploid plants also. There are hexaploid plant also. There are octaploid plants also, and they are good. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
In plants, there is normally a tissue known as endosperm, which is triploid. So, which tells that they are good with handling polyploidy. Yes, everyone?
Yes.
In human cells, every chromosome should be just two, one pair, one from father, one from mother. If by mistake, so Down syndrome is trisomy of chromosome number 21. So the chromosome number 21, it should have two copies, one from the mother and one from the father. Somehow, during the sperm, like when the fusion is happening, when the zygote is forming and when the embryo is developing, in the zygote forming stage, so zygote is a single cell, diploid, yes. To divide, it has to undergo replication. Yes, Arpit?
Yes, sir.
During that replication, there is an aberration, and instead of making two copies of chromosome 21, which goes in each cell, there are three copies of chromosome 21 in each cell. So it's called trisomy of 21, and this trisomy leads to a disorder in babies where the head is not developed properly. They are mentally retarded, and the head is slightly bigger. And
It's there in all the cells or only one particular cell?
if it is in the zygote and embryo, it's going to be in all the cells, no?
Oh yeah.
So it's in all the cells of the body. That's called a Down syndrome. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Arpit, how about I just tell you this much and the rest we do in genetics? Will it work? Will you be happy?
Yes, sir. No issues.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I am giving you a homework, everyone. Please revise today's class. There are few more topics that we have to finish for this chapter that we will do in the next class, and then we'll start with reproductive health in the next class. So the topics that you have to go and study, write down your homework, are the following. Sorry. We have studied till fertilization here. So you have to go and study implantation, and then implantation, pregnancy, which is also known as gestation, then lactation, which is production of human milk in the mammary glands of the female, and parturition. Parturition is the final act of delivering the baby. So these four things I will take in the next class separately, and then we'll finish this chapter. Okay. So this you have to study. Okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So in the next class, we'll finish this chapter and go to reproductive health. Anyone has any doubt, please ask. If no one has any doubt, then I declare the class. Everyone can leave. If someone wants to stay.
Thank you, sir.
But Fatima, you'll stay for 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Welcome, Alia. Bye-bye. Arpit and Kulsum, you want to stay? For 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes?
No, sir. Actually, my mouse pad stopped working.
Okay. Kulsum, you have a doubt?
Sir, do you know the shortcut key to leave?
Okay. Bye, Kulsum. Welcome. Arpit, like I can remove you, but I don't want to. Probably then you will not be able to enter the next time without permission. So you figure it out in the meanwhile. Or you can, what if you end the meeting? Like if you just close the meeting, will it work? I don't know.
I will directly shut down.
Yes, that will be good. Because
Okay,
if I remove you, then I think in the next class, if I do not allow you, you will not be able to enter.
Yes, sir, it gets banned, I guess, like something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
it shows bad on your profile that I removed.
Yes.
I don't want to remove you. Okay, Fatima, let's come to. So for your exams, you're there, Fatima?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So first, do not panic. Okay. Mostly chapter 2 and chapter 3 are coming, right?
Yeah.
And majority of chapter 2 and 3 is
The
what?
chapter 2 and chapter 3 is both reproduction only, right?
In flowering plants and
No, they're not coming. Only reproduction in humans and reproductive health, and the fifth chapter, this one, genetics, first chapter.
chapter 2 is also not coming.
None of the flower stuff is coming.
No plant stuff. Okay, animal stuff, human stuff. So 3 is most of the important parts of 3 are done. These small things, they are like in 2 paragraphs given in NCERT. Two small paragraphs are there. For implantation, all you have to know is that the first thing that happens after implantation is formation of placenta. Okay, so just keep noting these things. You have to, from NCERT, just read about what is placenta and what hormones do it secrete. That's all they can ask about placenta. The function of placenta, the function is to provide a link between mother and the baby and produce hormones to keep the pregnancy ongoing. And towards the very end, when parturition is about to begin, then also the role of placenta comes. Okay, then there is something called fetal ejection reflex. So write this thing down and just read it from NCERT. What is fetal ejection reflex? It is a reflex where the fetus, when it develops after 9 months, tells the mother body, the system, that I am ready to come out. So fetal ejection reflex is first started by the fetus, and then it goes to placenta, and then placenta also contributes to it, and together they make the uterus. Just one moment, okay? I also called someone early today. Hello, Reem. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. I'm very well. So I'm just telling some shorthand tips to Fatima here from previous batch because she has her exam. Okay. So can you just be here for 5 more minutes? Just listen, and then
Yes,
we'll
sir.
start with our discussion. Okay. Okay. So Fatima, in parturition, what can be asked for your exams is fetal ejection reflex written. It is where the placenta and the fetus together tells the uterus to start showing contractions. So these are mild contractions. Keep in mind that fetal ejection reflex is not vigorous. It is very mild. It just tells the mother that she's about to deliver the baby. Okay, this is mostly where the water breaks. Have you heard of this term?
Yeah, the amniotic fluid.
Yes, fluid starts coming out. That is called water breaking event. And then the female has to be rushed to the hospital. That is fetal ejection reflex. And that reflex tells a signal to pituitary to start producing oxytocin. Class 11th, you must have studied that pituitary and vasopressin and oxytocin are the 2 hormones which are produced from posterior pituitary, not anterior. So
Yeah.
posterior pituitary starts forming oxytocin in huge quantities. They come to the uterus and makes the uterus contract vigorously. This leads to the expulsion of the baby. Okay, so these 2 things you have to read. Then in pregnancy, all you have to read is from NCERT. It's given in 1 short paragraph in NCERT. You have to find where is that paragraph, but it's given that in which month what develops. So in first trimester, heart and most major organs develop. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they are formed. First trimester, first month. By the end of first trimester, almost all the major organs are there in the body in 3 months. Then by the end of second trimester, the small hair on the scalp along with eyelids are formed. The baby starts showing movement, all these things by second trimester. So technically by second trimester, by 6 months, the baby is formed. For the rest 3 months, it just develops. So even if a baby is prematurely born in the 7th or the 8th month, it can survive. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that is the concept of premature birth.
But in this baby is present inside the amniotic fluid, but then in the fluid, how does it survive?
it does not breathe. It does not do anything in that fluid. To survive, all you need is oxygen in your cells to break down glucose. That's called respiration, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's how all our organs survive. So till we are inside our mother's womb, we are like a parasite, endoparasite. We are not doing anything of our own. We are taking everything from the mother and giving all the waste into her blood.
Okay. Yeah.
Then lactation is where you can just see the like hormone which is important. Okay, prolactin is the one, and just look at the structure of mammary gland. It is there in the NCERT. So this chapter will be done for your exam.
Sir, what about the diagrams from this chapter? Which one?
This chapter, I think most of the times the conventional is draw a diagram for ovarian cycle, which we have drawn, or a diagram, a graph for both the ovarian and the uterine cycle, the hormonal level graph that we did today. Male and female reproductive systems, they ask, but I don't think that will be that common. But if they ask, you go for female. Okay, it's easier.
Okay.
And you will not lose much marks. Then for chapter 4 we are doing in this current batch, which Reem is a part of. So in chapter 4, it's all about focus on the birth control methods. So there are artificial and natural methods, like permanent and temporary methods. Permanent is surgical removal. Then there is temporary. In temporary, there are both artificial and natural. So just go through these methods and remember examples, at least 1 or 2 examples of each method that can be asked. Most important is birth control in chapter 4. Okay.
Yes,
After birth control, the second important thing is sexually transmitted diseases, STDs. And which birth control method can prevent STDs? So just to tell you, only barrier method, and in the barrier method also only the condoms and femidoms prevent STDs.
Sir, femidoms is not given in the textbook.
Femidom is a female condom. If condom
Oh.
is given, they can ask for femidom. Condom is for males. It's for the penis. Femidom is for females. Okay, it's just an inverted condom.
Okay, sir.
Both has the same concept, that it's a barrier. It does not allow the fluids to exchange between male and female. No fluid, no semen, no sperm exchanges. So condoms and femidoms are the only things which can prevent STDs, not diaphragm, not IUDs, no oral pills, no natural method. Okay, no permanent method, only condoms. So STDs and birth control device things, if you do, chapter 4 is done and sorted, most of them. Then in chapter 5, where the genetics start, you have already studied about the Mendelian laws, right? In your junior class.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Just keep that in mind when you are making Punnett square. Please also do the exceptions of those laws, like codominance. Our blood group is an example of codominance, right? ABO
Yeah.
grouping, blood group. That should be there. You should keep that in mind. And apart from that, what is the reason for variation? So that is called
Mutation.
Yes. One is mutation, focus on mutation. Then genetic recombination. Recombination and linkage is a very, very famous favorite topic. Recombination and linkage. So mutation causes genetic variation normally in both asexual and sexually reproducing organisms. Recombination causes genetic variation in sexually reproducing organisms, and linkage does not allow recombination to happen. So the relationship is like this: greater the linkage, lower the recombination. Okay. When you will study it from your notes, I think it will help you. And apart from that, the sex-linked disorders, what are autosomal dominant disorders, what are sex-linked, and how sex-linked pass. So remember, sex-linked are always on X chromosome, okay? And because females have X, which they can give to both male and female offspring, then X chromosome, sex-linked disorders from a female can go to both daughter and the son. But a sex-linked disease from a father, because it only gives X to daughters, right?
Yes.
So from a father, it can only go to a daughter. So So these are some rules. So focus on autosomal, dominant and recessive disorders, sex-linked disorders, linkage, recombination, and mutation. That's all.
So in this, will there? No, there won't be diagrams, right?
No, there could be just Punnett squares or F1, F2 solving. Not
Okay. And scientists, which scientists are important?
scientists, I think they don't ask much about which scientists are important, but in NCRT there are few scientists which are named, like for recombination and mutation, and for Mendel is, of course, it will not be asked in much, but look for recombination and linkage related scientists and
Okay.
mutation. These individuals. That's all. Okay, Fatima. All the best for your exam. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving time.
Stay cool and you know everything. See you after the exam. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye. Hello, Reem. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. So I think Madhya has not joined in, right? Only you have joined.
Yes.
Yeah. So Reem, first of all, I'm sorry about this video thing. I'm having some issues with my, webcam, so I'm not able to access my video. Okay. I'm not
Thanks, sir.
so we'll work with the audio. So let me go to your batch. We have to discuss about chapter 3, right?
Yes.
Cool. So I'll use the same notes which I used for your batch. Did you go back and study? Did you get the notes? Sorry, the video link?
Of chapter 3 and chapter 4.
Yeah, chapter 3. Did you get the video links for sexual reproduction in humans? Yes or no?
No.
No? Okay. So please do send a message to the same WhatsApp number from where you get the links, right?
Okay, sir.
And I will also tell them to provide you and Madhiha both with these links, okay? So in chapter, I'll just quickly go through everything that I have taught, and till whatever point we will reach, we will do the same thing in the next class, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So Reem, you know that in humans, there is sexual reproduction. Yes, whatever you feel
Yes.
like noting down, please note down. Okay, it's not compulsory to note down things, because this is to explain you things. You will get this as a PDF if you want, no problem. But the concept, let's talk about the concept. So in humans, it is sexual reproduction, and humans are of, there are two types of organisms, oviparous and viviparous. Oviparous lay eggs and viviparous give birth to the offsprings. Humans are viviparous. We give birth to the offsprings. Humans are also heterogametic. And the word hetero, remember I told you about terminologies in the last class?
Yes.
So the word hetero is always about different. Heterogeneous mixture in chemistry, right?
Yes.
Heterozygous and heterogametic. Wherever the word hetero comes, it means different. So heterogametic means we have different gametes. Males have a different gamete known as sperm, and different in terms of they are so different that you look at the gametes and you can tell which is a male gamete, which is a female gamete. They are distinguishable, distinctly distinguishable. One is very small, which is called sperm, and sperm is also known as microgamete. Okay, because it's smaller among the two gametes. Is it clear?
Yes.
And the other one is ovum, which is called macrogamete. Sorry. The other one is ovum, which is called macrogamete. So we are heterogametic. Next, the concept of lifespan. You know what is a lifespan and life cycle? Reem, quickly.
Yes. Lifespan is how long we're about to live.
Lifespan is from the start to end.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the overall span of life. So from birth to natural death is lifespan. So the average lifespan of human is around 70 years, 68 to 70 years. But life cycle is from zygote to sexual maturity only. Okay. For every organism, life cycle is shorter than lifespan. So in humans, there is a concept of reaching puberty, which is called sexual maturity. Yes, you know about?
Yes.
Yeah. So males reaches sexual maturity at the age of 13 to 15, whereas females reach sexual maturity at around 10 to 13, like, or 11 to 13. So clearly it is a couple of years earlier than males. Females reach puberty earlier. Yes.
Yes.
Now there are some more basic concepts. For example, gametogenesis. So gametogenesis is, again, gameto and genesis. There are two words, formation of gametes. So you have to know that in males, gametogenesis starts, it begins for the first time after reaching puberty. Whereas in females, gametogenesis starts before birth of that female, during the embryonic stage of the female. So there was a question associated with this here, that the ovum from which you are formed, this is a neat question, okay, a very, very interesting one. So the ovum from which you were formed was produced or synthesized inside the body of, and in the option, the mother will not be there, and one option will be the maternal grandmother. So the right
Maternal grandmother.
yes, that will be the right option. You understand why? Because when mother will be an embryo, when your mother would have been at embryonic stage inside your maternal grandmother's womb, then her ovaries started making the oocytes from which you were born later on. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So gametogenesis in females starts during embryonic stage, and in females, it is not continuous. It starts and then gets arrested at anaphase 1 of meiosis 1, and then continues from there after puberty. This is the overall, just a look here. So there is a sperm, which is a haploid cell. Yes, N is for haploid. Unicellular cell,
Yes.
haploid. Ovum, unicellular and haploid. Both together fuse, undergo fertilization to form a zygote, which is diploid, but still unicellular. Yes, zygote becomes embryo, which is diploid, but now it starts becoming multicellular. Then embryo is called fetus when it starts developing organs and structures. Then fetus after birth is called infant. Is it clear?
Yes.
So after birth is infant, then the child grows and reaches puberty, that is also known as adolescence, and then adult, sexually mature. Now talking about spermatogenesis again. Spermatogenesis, once it starts after puberty, it never stops. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
It continues, it does not ceases. But oogenesis ceases, it stops at around 50 years. The sexual cycle of females is limited.
Menopause.
That is called menopause. And the first cycle that starts is called menarche. Menarche and menopause are two concepts. Okay. Then release of oocyte from from a female ovaries begin at puberty, and that is called the beginning of menstrual cycle or menstruation. This is a 28-day long cycle. Yesterday we were talking about this, right? Remember?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Ovulation happens on day 14 of this cycle. So the basic fundamental is clear to you? Shall we go
Yes.
into detail? Okay. Then in this chapter from your NCERT also, you have to read about both male and female reproductive systems. So let's first go to a male reproductive system. Remember I told you in the last class that male reproductive system is a non-default state of female system only? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So here, talking about male reproductive system, let's first talk about the gamete, sperm. So sperm is a unicellular motile gamete. This is the structure of sperm where there is a head, neck, and a tail region. Okay. In the head region, the sperm contains has a cap-like structure called acrosome. You understand? This acrosome is an important structure for the process of fertilization, for fertilizing the ovum. It contains important hydrolytic enzymes. Okay. And then in the cell, sperm head, there is sperm nucleus, which is haploid, which is bringing the male gamete, male genome from the father. And then the next structure is lined with mitochondria. There are 50 to 75 lots and lots of mitochondria in the neck structure lined together. The sole purpose of these mitochondria is to generate energy for the tail to show whiplash motion. Okay,
Sir, there's a middle piece, right?
that is the neck. Middle piece is called neck. Head, neck, and tail. Some books write it as head, middle piece, and tail. Okay. So neck is the middle piece. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So also one important thing that you have to know about sperm is that sperm are the only cells in a male which rely on fructose for their nutrition, not on glucose. Rest all the cells in our body, they rely on glucose. They undergo glycolysis. Remember class 11 respiration
Yes.
chapter? But sperms get nutrition from fructose, not from glucose. And in one ejaculation, there are around 300 to 400 million sperms per ejaculation. That is sent into the female tract. But even then, so many sperms, even then fertilization is a chance event. It is possible that the fertilization may not happen. And yesterday we were discussing reasons for it, remember?
Yeah, because they're not stable, right?
Because they are getting killed, one thing. And the other thing is
The cell sequence.
the timing between the male and the female gamete reaching at the ampulla isthmus junction, remember?
Yes.
When we were discussing the natural methods, I was telling you that it is based on the rhythm of the menstrual cycle. So if you do not copy, if the couple abstain from copulating during the ovulation days around day 10 to day 20, then the chances of fertilization is even less, right? Because what you are doing is you are not allowing the male and female gamete to reach at the same place at the same time to fertilize each other. Make sense?
Yes.
Now coming to the male system. So a lot of things that we discussed, but the important things about the male system is the primary organs are testes. Primary sexual organs are testes. If I go to this diagram here, which is so the primary organs are testes, and rest everything is either accessory organ or helping ducts. So spermatogenesis happens in testes. Okay, and in testes also. The whole notebook is not visible, right?
It is visible.
Can you
Yeah,
see here?
down part is not visible.
Yeah, right. I think it's loading slowly. Can I just let me just do one thing? Just switch it off and open it. Yeah. Anyways, in the meanwhile, I'm audible, right?
Yes.
So spermatogenesis happens in the testes, and then these sperms. One question that can come is what is the site of spermatogenesis? So inside the testes, there are seminiferous tubules at the very center, like at the very inside of the testes. There are seminiferous tubules which produce the sperms. Now the production of sperm, which is called spermatogenesis, and after the sperms are produced, I think now you will be able to see this. Is the screen visible to you?
Yes.
Can you see the whole diagram now?
Yes.
Yes. So this is the suppose a cross section of a testis. So inside, I will directly go to one more figure that I have. Inside is the testicular lobules, which are marked here, and these testicular lobules form the sperm. Then they come out of the testes through rete testis. This is a network of.
So seminiferous tubules and testicular lobes are same.
Testicular lobules contain seminiferous tubules. So testicular lobules are like compartments. They are like rooms. So they are around 200 to 250 lobules in each testis. And then in each lobule, there are 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. Is it clear?
Yes.
The site of spermatogenesis is seminiferous tubules. Okay. Then the sperms come out into the retrotestes. They go through the vasa efferentia into the epididymis. This epididymis is a very important structure because sperms are produced in seminiferous tubules structurally, but they are functionally matured in the epididymis. Is it clear? For the functional maturation of for sperms, epididymis is an important organ. Okay. All these things you will find in your NCERT and also when you will go through the recorded videos. Then from epididymis, it comes into the vas deferens, this part, this tube here, the vas deferens. And vas deferens comes from both the testes, from both the sides, and join at the seminal vesicle level to form urethra. Urethra is a common opening for both urinary excretory system and the sperm ejaculation. So in males, urethra serves a common purpose for the passage of urine and the passage of sperms. Okay. So the ducts are this: retrotestes, vasa efferentia, epididymis, and vas deferens, and urethra. Okay. Now there are three important glands in male system, which is the seminal vesicles. Then there are these two dot-like structures called bulbourethral gland. Can you see these two?
Yes.
And then there is a prostate gland in between seminal vesicle and bulbourethral gland. There is one single. It is not in pair. Prostate looks like it is in pair, but it is one single gland behind the urethra. Okay. Seminal vesicle is a pair, bulbourethral is a pair, but prostate is single. All these three glands together secrete semen. Their secretions together form semen in which sperms are present when they are ejaculated. And semen serves the purpose of giving nutrition to the sperm, protecting the sperm from acidic environment, both inside the male system and inside the female system, and enhances the motility and viability of the sperm. Okay, clear? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one more. Now, can you see this slide?
Yeah.
How does male reproductive system function or control? So this is about the regulation, the hormonal regulation. So both male and female reproductive systems are regulated through hormones. Okay. The hormones which come from the brain are same for both male and females. This you have also studied in class 11th. Remember, I will also advise you to go back and open up the chemical control and coordination part in class 11th. You have studied this, right?
Yes.
Where you have studied hormones like FSH and LH.
Yeah.
They're called gonadotropins. So how this is done, let me explain this to you. This is important. This question can come that tell the hormonal regulation of male reproductive system. So in the brain, there is a structure called hypothalamus, correct?
Yeah.
And hypothalamus, as you know, it secretes hormones to give signal to the pituitary. Yes? Pituitary gland is below the hypothalamus. Yes?
They're both in brain.
Yes, they are both in brain. Pituitary gland is called the master gland. Remember, it has two lobes: anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary. All of this is given in chemical control and coordination. For reproductive, for class 12, what is important is that you have to know hypothalamus secretes a hormone called GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. Can you write down? Because
Yes.
I'm not able to scribble it. So it's called gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH, which goes and acts on pituitary, and then pituitary, under the effect of GnRH, releases these two hormones, FSH and LH. FSH is called follicle stimulating hormone and LH is called luteinizing hormone. These two hormones go and act on the target sites, testes and ovaries. In males, they go on testes, and in females, the target site is ovaries. Is it clear to you?
Yes.
And so talking about males, in males, the FSH is necessary for spermatogenesis. It starts spermatogenesis. Okay. FSH starts spermatogenesis. This is to be remembered. And LH starts the production of testosterone in the testes. Okay. Understand?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
after testosterone is produced, then let's see here. So FSH and LH. FSH goes on testes and starts spermatogenesis. LH goes on testes and starts the secretion of testosterone. Testosterone is another hormone, but it is a testicular hormone. It is a male sexual hormone. And this hormone is important for puberty related changes. It causes the secondary sexual characters to emerge. And what are these secondary sexual characters in males? Development of facial hairs, voice box develops, yes?
Yes.
The voice becomes coarse and low pitched in males. Muscle starts developing, muscle mass and strength develops under the effect of testosterone. The bone mass and the bone density develops. Pubic hair develops around the reproductive, the genitalia parts. Then fat distribution starts and sexual drive begins. Okay. All these sexual drive is the behavior in which the males after sexual reproduction comes in the heat period. For other animals, we use the word heat period. You know that many animals are seasonal breeders. They do
Seasonal
not
periods?
keep, sorry?
What do you mean by seasonal periods?
I could not understand you. Come again.
What do you mean by seasonal periods?
Yes, I'm saying that organisms are seasonal breeders where they only lay eggs or they give birth to babies during a season. They do not give birth to babies throughout the year. If you see Discovery and all these wildlife channels, they always tell you that this is the breeding season for this fish or this bird or this particular mammal. You know about it? There comes
Now I do.
okay, so there is a season in wild. See, in wild, you would like to reproduce only when the situation is favorable, right?
Yeah.
When everything is there, plenty of food, plenty of water. You would not like to reproduce in a famine or a drought condition, yes?
Yes.
Or during very hot summers or during very cold winters, right?
Yeah.
Humans can breed anytime because we are not seasonal breeders anymore. We live in a protected environment. In wild animals, many animals show this behavior of breeding seasonally. So before the start of before the start of this breeding season, these hormonal surge starts in their body and they undergo sexual drive, or that is called heat period. Okay, that is heat period, so that they can copulate then. Is it clear to you? You
Yes, sir.
understand? Yeah. And then there's one thing, spermatogenesis, that I will discuss. Just so spermatogenesis occurs in which you have to look at this flowchart. Can you see this flowchart here where my cursor is hovering?
Yes.
Yes. So everything starts with this primordial germ cells, okay, and this is before they are in the ovary. So inside the ovary, they are called spermatogonium cells. So primordial germ cells, which are diploid cells, they undergo mitosis and they give rise to spermatogonium. Spermatogonium cells are again diploid. They again undergo mitosis and give rise to primary spermatocyte. The name spermatocyte may make you think that it is a spermatocyte. Okay, so if it is a sperm, it should be haploid, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case. Primary spermatocyte is diploid. It is the first cell line in the testes in this process, which now will commit itself to the process of sperm formation. So this will undergo first meiosis. So primary spermatocyte is diploid, but after meiosis 1, it will form secondary spermatocytes, which are haploid. So if the question comes, which is the first haploid cell in the process of spermatogenesis, what will you say? Primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, spermatids, or spermatogonium?
It's primary spermatocyte.
Secondary spermatocyte.
Oh, secondary.
Secondary spermatocyte is the first haploid cell. Primary spermatocyte is diploid. That is what I was telling you. Okay. Then after, because primary spermatocyte, when it starts meiosis, you know, meiosis has 2 cycles in itself. In one cycle, there are 2 division cycles, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Class 10th or 11th.
11th.
Cell cycle chapter. Yeah. So after meiosis 1, only 2 daughter cells are formed and both are haploid. So primary spermatocyte undergo meiosis 1 to form 2 daughter cells, which are known as secondary spermatocyte. They will be the haploid cells. And then they will undergo meiosis 2 to give 2 each, which total makes 4 daughter cells, and all of them will be haploid. So by the end of the cycle, from 1 spermatogonium, we get 4 spermatids and 4 mature sperms. Clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is spermatogenesis. Please go get this video link and go through my this class in detail. That will help you. Okay.
Okay, sir.
In that, and when you will come in the next class, again half an hour early, we will discuss the female system just like this. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now's the time to start the normal class. I think Mamuna has joined in. Mamuna and Mazia, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Fine. Okay, so Reem, Mamuna and Mazia, let's just